All right, it is time. It is 11:30 a.m. here in Baltimore. Just shortly after that, it is 7:32 p.m. in Madagascar, where my friend Christian Marcel is. Christian has let me know that it has been a good day, so I look forward to a good day here in the States. Baltimore is where our Catholic Relief Services has our world headquarters. I'm sure most of your classes start on time, so we're going to go ahead and start on time as well. We're glad so many of you from around the country could join us to learn about our work here in Madagascar and about how participation in CRS Rice Bowl can actually help families and communities around the world. Today, we have students from Connecticut on the East Coast, all the way to California on the West Coast, and even those in Kentucky and in between. Speaking of Rice Bowl, I hope everyone has theirs with them. I was able to get mine together after about 3 attempts. I would love to say that I was able to get it done on the first try, but I wasn't. Hope you had better luck with that. Loved using the calendar that came with my Rice Bowl. Yesterday's fun fact taught me how to say hello in Malagasy, which is one of the national languages in Madagascar. I thought it was so cool. So salama, everyone. In this season of Lent, our prayers and fasting and almsgiving help us to grow closer to God and to our neighbors near and far. I'd like to begin our time today in prayer, remembering that God is present with us here and that we encounter him in our global family. So if you'll join me in prayer, and we pray in the name of the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit. God of mercy, you call us to recognize you in our sisters and brothers and to care for those most in need. As you remind us, for whatever you do for the least of these, you do for me. This Lent, ignite your love in us so that through our prayer, fasting, and almsgiving, we may support all those who experience hunger in the body, the heart, and the spirit. Amen. Again, thank you to everyone who's joined us. You may recognize that prayer. It is this year's CRS Rice Bowl prayer. So I encourage you to pray that daily and just remember to think about our sisters and brothers around the world. I'm now excited to introduce our amazing guest speaker live from Madagascar, Christian Marcel. Christian is CRS's disaster risk reduction specialist in Madagascar. Christian joined CRS in September of 2016 as an infrastructure officer and managed a number of CRS infrastructure activities for all emergency projects in the deep south of Madagascar. As our disaster risk reduction specialist, Christian now works with communities throughout southern Madagascar to develop municipal structures that monitor for both drought and famine indicators. By tracking the information, the communities can support timely communication and appropriate decision-making in response during times of crisis. Welcome, Christian. Good to see you. Now that we know a little bit more about Christian, he's going to tell us a little bit about the daily life in Madagascar and how to share our daily prayers and participation in CRS Rice Bowl, how that actually helps support the people and communities in his country. After Christian finishes sharing, we'll have some time for you to ask some questions and we'll have a dialogue going back and forth. So feel free to type them in and we'll take a look at those, but we won't begin answering questions until after Christian has done with his presentation. Christian, it's over to you. Salama.
Salama. Thank you, Chris. Yeah. Hello, everyone. I'm very glad today to be here with you. My name is Christian Marcel, and I'm a disaster risk reduction specialist for CRS in Madagascar. I will explain more about what that means in a couple of minutes. I was born in 1988, not far from where I'm working right now. I have 2 sisters and 2 brothers, as we can see on the picture. In the right side, my siblings, her name is Cecilia Marcel. And in the left side is Anta Marcel. Look at my old brother, he's staring at me because he wants to take my place. And there I am in the middle, held by my dad. The year I was born, there was a drought which destroyed crops and left 950,000 people without food. To be honest, I did not understand yet that time. But when I was 14, there was another famine, which affected 600,000 people. And 4 years after that one, another famine affected about 230,000 people. During this hard time, I was old enough to understand what was happening. And I can tell you that was not easy. Most of the time, my mom just boiled water and shared it to us like she was sharing a real food. And we just took it like we are eating a real food too. I felt how hard and difficult it is. So my dream was to work for World Food Program because they came to my village at least twice a week to distribute food. They were like our savior. And in 2016, I was hired by Catholic Relief Services. And I was really happy because I finally got the chance to do my dream job, helping vulnerable people. And I thank CRS for what they're doing for the community. This is my family. You can see my two sons and my wife, Anzara Shuaruva, who is working for the government. My sons' names are Seamus McDonnell and Jason Marcel. Seamus is 4 years old and he's in preschool in Ireland. And Jason is 2 years old and he's with us in the suffering of Madagascar now. The first picture with this cute little smile is Seamus and I in Diani. And the second picture with this grumpy little face, but still cute, is my son Jason and my wife Anzara Shuaruva and me after visiting grandparents in Fordhofen. Now, let's talk a little bit about Madagascar. When you think of Madagascar, you probably think of the famous cartoon with the lion, giraffe, zebra, lefusa. But Madagascar is a real island. And it is in the east coast of Africa and is the fourth largest island in the world and has a huge variety of wildlife in both its plants and animals. Famous for its lemurs and odd trees called baobab. As a big island, we have several different landscapes, and I can tell you that they're all beautiful. Madagascar is also rich in diversity of people and culture with 18 different language dialects spoken across the country. With diverse weather from the north to south and the west to east, Madagascar produces many kinds of fruit, trees, and agricultural products. As you can see on the picture, we have bananas, we have oranges, avocado, lemon, a lot of fruit, even apple, pineapple, papaya, a lot of fruit you can choose. Yeah. We can even have coconut. Madagascar has a lot of different delicious food too. But the main Malagasy food is rice. Meals without rice are not meals here. It sounds like we need the rice to make us strong. This is one of the snacks we eat in Madagascar. We call it kuba, and it's made of peanuts and grain, and it's sweet and tasty treat that many Malagasy enjoy. I'm sure that one day, if you come here, you will taste that one. Now, remember, Madagascar is this large island of the east coast of Africa. The southwestern of Madagascar is like a desert and has a long dry period between irregular rainstorms. They get very little rain there each year. And the average daily temperature is 19 Fahrenheit. And that's where I am working. And that's where I am right now. People living here must go at least 2 miles to collect water. And the best way to do it is like we can see on the picture. You bring your Zebu card, put 2 tanks in it, and fill it with water. You go back home and you have water for the week. You can see that there's like an interaction between people and animals, and it's kind of sharing water. Now, I had to struggle as a child, and I know how hard and painful it is not having food on the table. I remember when I was a child, about 11 or 12, after class, I have to go to one of my friend's parents to help them because they're making a local biscuit. And after that one, they give me 500 ariary, where I can get 2 cups of rice to help my mom to feed my brothers and sisters. That was really hard. And I do not want people to live with that kind of life, that pain. And that's the reason why I always wanted to help vulnerable people, but I did not have money. In 2016, when Catholic Relief Services hired me, I was really happy because that was my chance to bring my contribution to help people. People here are farmers, most of them. But the main problem in this region is a lack of water, lack of rain. Most of the time, there's not enough rain for agriculture. So it is difficult for people to produce food to feed their family or to sell in the market. With just a little rain, they start growing things like corn, cassava, sweet potato, beans, and a lot of stuff because they are hoping to get something. But once the food start growing, pests come to ruin their hard work. This is the fallow armyworm, which eats their corn. And this one is a locust, which destroys their crops and reduce the amount of food that they can get from what they have planted. This situation, in general, leads to an extreme hunger. Pests like this are unavoidable, but we can reduce the impact of it by working with communities to set up local committees in charge of following the hazard as they raise and communicating information to the community to help them to take measures on time and reduce the effect and keep their crops safe. My job as CRS staff through the funding from United States government and the generosity of people like you through CRS Rice Bowl is to make sure that each community has their own committee. Train them on how to reduce the risk to their crops and accompany them as they learn and put their new skills into action. I also work with the agricultural team to identify and distribute adapted seeds, and also providing modern agricultural techniques to them before the rainy season. As we are working in an arid area, we also develop water plants to provide drinking water for the community. This allows them to have their own kitchen garden, and that can help them to have a nutritious food, but also to give water for their zebu. It is really important for them, their zebu. I will explain later. I hope that Torin may become a doctor or a leader in our community. That's what Franklin said, Torin's mother. So this week, you will read and watch the story of Torin, a young boy in Madagascar who will have a nutritious food to make him grow up strong because of the work that my colleagues and I do, supported by your generous donation to Rice Bowl. Torin will eat the rainbow of delicious fruit that I showed you in my presentation. And he will be one step closer to achieving his mother's dream for him to become a doctor or a leader in their community. Just like I want to see my sons grow and succeed. And just like your parents want all of you to live to your fullest potential. Now, I think it's pretty much it for my presentation. Question, just please ask. Thank you.
Christian, thank you so very much. That was an inspiring story. No wonder CRS calls them stories of hope. Personally, Christian, I'm amazed by the idea that your own personal story influenced your work and your desire to help other people. And I find that pretty inspirational. Folks, at this time, we are going to have a question and answer, and you can find that Q&A button at the bottom of your screen and type it in. Christian, as people begin to put questions into the chat, though, I'm curious to know about COVID. I know that the COVID the virus that is affecting everyone here is also affecting people in Madagascar. How is CRS working with COVID in Madagascar and trying to still do the important work that we do with the virus there? How is that affecting people?
It is affecting people. I would just say two things, one from the community and one from our organization, CRS. From the community, it is really in the story, the hunger just come like every 4 years or every 10 years. And what people do to adapt is like moving from here to another place, because we have 22 regions in Madagascar. So during the hard time, they move. And when rain comes, they come back. So during COVID, it is really difficult to move because of the COVID restriction. And that's really difficult for them. Even the number of people affected by the hunger increased. So now I'm going to talk about what we as a CRS do. We are working to help them. So we have to follow all of the measures to protect people and protect us too, like the distanciation like wearing a mask and washing hands. Yeah, that's what we do. And most of the time, we are also teaching them all of these measures. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I know that across the globe, CRS is seeing a spike in hunger because of COVID, because as it impacts different communities around the world, farmers aren't able to necessarily travel to different regions in order to get their crops to market. We're seeing some challenges there. And so it has been a problem throughout the world. So, Christian, we have a couple questions coming in related to water. One of the questions is, and folks, just so you know that in Madagascar, it is such a big country, there are different temperate regions. Along the coast is typically more tropical. In the center of the country, it is a much more temperate climate. And certainly in the southern part of Madagascar, where Christian lives and works, it is a much more arid, deserty type of environment. And so, Christian, in the area that you work, is access to water a problem in the region throughout Madagascar, and maybe clean water in other cases in Madagascar? Is that an issue? And how is deforestation contributing to the problem of water needs, or is the desertification, the encroaching desert, hurting the agriculture in the regions?
Yeah, that's right. There are a lot of factors which is making this region really dry. Like from the colonization, if we talk about it, it's really difficult because people here used to run for the colonization. When the French people trying to attack them, they go into the cactus. So it is difficult for the French to catch them. So what they did is like using chemical products to kill the cactus. And that affects the how to say that, this region, and destroyed a lot of things and changed the climate. That's one. The second part is this phenomenon of upwelling. This is really long if we explain it here. But what I mean is like, there are a lot of factors which destroying this region. And people here is still thinking that using TAVI is like doing slash and burn to produce like plant, corn, or tobacco can help them. But it's like destroying them too. And that's one of our partners' work, to convince people to stop this slash and burn, because that's affecting their rain and all of that. I don't know if I replied on the question, but
well,
yeah.
I think you did. So part of what we hear that with CRS is we look at issues of both charity, but also as justice. Some of the problems are because of the intentional deforestation that the French did in southern Madagascar back when it was a colony. And of course, you gained your independence. It was, I think your independence is what, June 24th, 1960? Is that your Independence Day?
Yes.
So you have an Independence Day from the French. And so they used probably Agent Orange, like we used in Vietnam, to deforest parts of South Africa. And there's also the encroaching desert. I'm going to ask my colleagues to bring back a picture from the slideshow that showed a community gathered around a well. And in this particular case, part of what we see here is that the dunes would encroach on the well on a regular basis. And so Christian was sharing with me that on a daily basis, the farmers would come out and have to dig out the well. Is that right, Christian?
That's right, yeah. If I could just like bring a little bit explanation about this picture. As you can see, there are like 3 men sitting on the well there.
That's right in the center of the photo, right in the center that you can see the man sitting on the well.
Yeah, and this well is the only well providing water for 18 fontaines in this area, and it is threatened by the dune. So they called CRS because we already have done a lot of dune stabilization in another place, and they saw it, so they called us to check. And at the beginning, I was just saying like, it will be difficult, but it's doable. We'll move it first, and then we'll plant sisal and ipomea on it, and it will help you. Because before that, the community have to go every day in that place to remove the sands. So we did it, and now it's already safe, it's protected, and I'm just proud about it.
It's a great example, and we're seeing this in some of our African countries in West Africa too, where dunes from the desert are encroaching on communities. And as Christian was talking, by working with the community, having them dig it out and then plant I guess indigenous species of plants there, it prevents the dune from encroaching on that well in the future. Christian, a question has come in on how much does it take to build a community well? And so that's a rough estimate, I'm guessing, because every well is different. But generally, how much does it cost to build a community well?
Okay. Till now, we are not building community well, but we are doing rehabilitation. And what we do is like putting water, a rock pump on the well. So it is easy for community to collect water, and it's easy for them to repair and fix it when it's broken. And this one costs about 3 million ariari. I don't know how much it is in dollars. Yeah.
I will
Help me,
look
Chris,
that up.
please. Yeah.
Let's see, 3 million is around $800 US to rehabilitate the wells.
That's the average.
So that's the average. So the question had come in from, I believe it was Michael. One of the things that CRS does, though, that is different from other organizations, when we do water projects in a community, it is not as simple as drilling a well. First, we bring the community together to talk about the well, how it will be maintained and taken and cared for by the community. People are trained as maintenance staff for the well. The community actually comes together to set some guidance on how much it will cost to access the well for the community members. And it's a decision that's made. And that money that is saved by the community when people access the well is then used to continually maintain the well. So across part of the work that I've been able to do is see some of our work in East Africa and Tanzania and Kenya, and then some in Ethiopia, where we would see wells in communities that have been broken down and abandoned. And part of that is people who have come in and built wells, but not set up any infrastructure in order to maintain the wells. So CRS in our work on the community with the ground is really to involve the community in both the project from example, from the start to the finish, as we do that work so that they're able to maintain the well. Christian, another question that has come in has to do with the pest that the fall armyworm and other insects. Could you tell us a little bit more about both the fall armyworm and the locust, and maybe how CRS is working to help farmers mitigate that that invasive species? What are we doing to protect the crops?
Okay. For the locust, I will explain. There's from the government there are people in charge of the eradication of these insects. So what CRS do now is like giving the information to this team. You see, we are setting up a local community to follow if there's a locust somewhere in their village, and they send this information to the people who is in charge of it. Because for this, we are using like a chemical to kill the locust, and not everyone is not be able to use that. For the fall army worm, we have like a traditional techniques. For what CRS do is like sensitizing people to do the following and share the information to all of the farmers so they can, how to say that, react on time and kill the fall army worm. Yeah.
Now, you were telling me the other day that part of that is by setting smoldering fires in the crop. So the smoke kills the fall armyworm, yes?
Mm-hmm.
So doing that.
That's one of the techniques. That's one of the techniques. The term that the guy used is like when the fall armyworms smell the smokes, it's like makes him not having an appetite, and they can't destroy many crops. Yeah.
So it's excellent. So one of the things that you heard was Christian talking about both the risk reduction, right? So in the case of the locust, this is training people to identify the potential for disaster ahead of time and then access the appropriate channels through the government to reduce that risk. Christian, one of the risks that you talked about was the risk of drought and how you're monitoring for that. Are there other natural disasters in Madagascar that you have to mitigate for? So for example, is there earthquake preparation or cyclone preparation in your region?
In my region, the main problem is the drought and the insects. The cyclone, of course, we need cyclone preparation. But I can tell you that cyclone from the East Coast or the West Coast, it's really difficult to say because it's like a disaster in that place. But in my region, it's like God sending the rain here. So we just need, we just train them on how to prevent the disaster, but the cyclone is not a real problem here.
So you welcome the rain when that comes.
Yeah.
Okay. So one of the questions that came in is the range of temperatures. It is obviously you're in the southern hemisphere, so it is summertime there. How hot does it get in the summertime?
Okay, in general, it's between 35 to 42 degrees. Help me, please.
All right, that is between 95 and 113 degrees in Fahrenheit. 35 to 45 is between 95 degrees and 113. So at the top end, 113 degrees or 45 degrees Fahrenheit can be dangerous sometimes. People can overheat, yeah?
Yeah, it is. But it's like people kind of used to it, and sometimes they're just using like a long sleeves shirt to protect themselves.
Okay.
And as you can see, like mine here, there's two different colors because I was working in the on the sun today, and I use gloves, and there's a different colors.
So you got to worry about sunburn too.
Yeah, of course, but a little.
Only a little. There you go. Well, thank you so
Yeah.
much, Christian, for joining us today. And thank you to everyone for your thoughtful questions. It's incredible to know how we're all connected. It's one human family. And honestly, to see how prayers and gifts can help families like Thorns. I encourage folks here to think about how they might share what they've learned today. Share Christian's story about the work that we're doing in Madagascar and other CRS stories of hope that you can share. How can you deepen your faith? That's going to be a challenge for you, right? How do you deepen your own participation in CRS Race Bowl to have a greater impact? And as we conclude, just Christian, do you have any words for the folks who are visiting and listening about how CRS Race Bowl can help people in Madagascar, and anything you would like to say?
Yeah, there's like a lot, but I would just say a few of it. First of all, I will thank everyone who participating on this CRS Race Bowl, because that can help a lot of people, a lot of child. Maybe you may not see, but the reason why I'm working in this region is I love to see the difference between people struggling and people after getting food from the Rice Bowl support. So what I'm asking is like just keep participating, because all of us could do the difference. We can bring our contribution in the field, and your help could help us to work hard. So thank you, everyone.
And thank you, Christian. Your heart for folks is very clear, and I am so grateful to you and for your work that you do. And thank you to everyone who joined us for spending time with us this morning. We hope that you have a blessed Lent, and we look forward to seeing you on our next virtual event, which will be Stories from Hope from El Salvador. And we'll be hearing a little bit about the work that CRS is doing. Thank you again, and God bless everyone. Thank you, Christian, and I hope you have a wonderful evening in Madagascar.
Thank you, everyone. Goodbye.
Goodbye.